there was a man who stalled these poor septuagenarian senators late into the evening, which is Joe Manchin, right? Manchin basically held up negotiations for hours because he wanted to lower the amount of money and the extension of unemployment benefits. There's a question of, well, can't progressives do that? Why can't progressives hold everything up in the same way? You know, why can't a Warren or a Sanders hold everything up in the same way that Manchin does? What are your thoughts on that line of thinking, Emma?
Well, the issue is that Warren and Sanders aren't going to say, okay, I'm changing parties. I mean, that's a real fear for Sinema and I was about to say Lieberman and Manchin. I'm about to bring up Lieberman, though, because there is a real silver lining about Joe Manchin. And again, I keep mentioning Sam because I talk to him 3 hours a day. Right. He's a zaddy, as they say. But no, he's not. I'm joking.
Who, Sam or Manchin?
Manchin. Jesus. No. I thought we were talking about Manchin there. Anyway, I digress. The silver lining about Joe Manchin is that he's, one, not as smart as Joe Lieberman, who was the centrist that held everything up for the Democrats during the Obama era, the first, during the healthcare fight, right? So he's not as smart as him, let's be real. He's not as good at politics and not as Machiavellian as Joe Lieberman was. But the key is that Manchin is not beholden to the very well-financed industries that are so terrified that Lieberman was. So Manchin, yeah, he's beholden to coal, but it's more of a personal branding exercise for him. It's more of, I'm going to buck this party orthodoxy and I'm going to buck this party orthodoxy. I'm like, it's kind of the Maverick thing, but it's a West Virginia version of it. And that's a lot more malleable than what Lieberman was operating in, which is, okay, I'm going to be a firewall for Wall Street and for the insurance industry in the healthcare debate. So then there was no negotiating with that guy. It was done. And he got a lot of Democratic senators to whip along with him, right? Joe Manchin, what you can do is, all right, we'll throw Neera Tanden out there as chum. You can vote against her and kill her nomination and then go back to your constituents and say, oh, look at me. I voted against this Biden nominee, right? So it's a lot easier to work with a guy
Killing
like
the
that.
Neera Tanden nom is a big relief for people with black lung.
Yeah. Well, totally agree. It's so dumb. And Manchin's, but like, this is his very specific brand that he wants to protect. And it's not ideological. It's just about, I'm a Democrat that can get elected in West Virginia. And the reason is because I stand up to the Democrats and I stand up to the Republicans. And it's very, very easy to manipulate that in whatever way is convenient for the current moment. That doesn't hurt him long term.
And the thing of it's like what frustrates me sometimes about the left is there's some amount of like Groundhog's Day of indignation. Like, it's like, we didn't just discover this week that Joe Manchin was an asshole and was going to be a problem. Like, he's been a problem for quite some time. And like, there was a progressive challenger in the last primary and she lost, and she lost, because she didn't have enough power and a big enough base and this, whatever. Like, it's not fair. It sucks. It's disappointing. But the lesson should be like, not how do we hope that Joe Manchin becomes a virtuous person that he's not going to be, but how do we build the power to be able to win elections in West Virginia and Arizona and Montana.
Make him moot in my view, because he's not the right person to primary. I'll like go out on a limb here because a Democrat winning there is really hard. And he's like weirdly captured this kind of one niche area. The ones you got to primary are like Mark Warner. Like Mark Warner behind the scenes.
I love how you whispered that. Is he listening to the Bitchuation room on Twitch?
He is scary because he's a Lieberman-esque figure in that it's
he's a Democrat. He's a Republican.
No, he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat from Virginia. And he is beholden to the insurance industry, to all of these moneyed interests. I believe he might be one of the Democrats that gets Chamber of Commerce donations, but I may not be sure.
I don't have him on the list as voting against the $15 minimum wage.
Ah, that's true. Okay, maybe
Tom Carper, Chris Coons, Maggie Hassan.
Okay, but then
Angus
this brings me
King.
back to my point. This brings me back to my biggest point, which I made on the show. It's not a popular point. Bernie's idea was not smart, stripping the $15 minimum wage out of the bill and then making it vote and voting on it as an amendment. He knew it wasn't going to pass. This was all about, shaming people.
He forced the vote.
Right. Well, yes. This is why both of those ideas are stupid.
Yes.
He stripped it out. The only two that were really threatening to tank the stimulus package because the minimum wage was included were Sinema and Manchin. I guarantee you they still would have voted for it if the $15 minimum wage was in. How do I know that? Because they both were saying they were against stimulus checks until they weren't, until Kamala Harris went on TV and pressured them, and then they acquiesced, and then they voted for it. I do believe if the White House wanted to make it happen, they would have made it happen. All Bernie did was strip it out of the stimulus package and then allowed the two senators from Biden's home state, among other people, like Tester and Maggie Hassan and all the other hateful eight that voted for this, right? To provide cover for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the White House to say, look at this threshold, this 8-vote threshold. We were never going to be able to surmount this. We were never going to be able to go over this in the stimulus package. When that was artificial, you go back and you look at these other senators, they all support a $15 minimum wage outside of Sinema and Manchin. So this made it look like a Herculean task for Biden that he couldn't possibly overcome. And so my point is that I understand why Bernie is such a wonderful person and advocate for this issue, but it really gave the White House cover when the real villains in this story is number one, Joe Biden and the White House, and then of course two, Kamala Harris. Sinema and Manchin. That's where all of this effort should be directed towards, because I don't think
some of these senators voted against it to kind of like pad up the resistance to
100%.
the amendment.
I very much believe that, and I think that the evidence is that the Carper and Coons, the two senators from Delaware, who want to be Joe Biden and want to suck up to Joe Biden, voted against it.
Even though they've come out in favor of a $15 minimum wage.
They've wanted to raise the wage before, but like this makes it seem like there were way more senators who were going to sink the stimulus package than there actually were, and makes it seem like, oh, we couldn't do this in time, when in my view, it was very doable if you had a stronger presence in the White House.
Have you become a patron yet? Patreon.com/Bitchuation is where you can directly support this show and help me make it sustainable so that I can do more of what I do best, doing this.